What do you think are the key baseline metrics to start recording about yourself today?
I'm really big on HRV would be one. The second would be sleep pattern. So important that we get our hours in. I've gotten to the point where I put my sleep monitor on my phone, and every time I wake up, I look to see if I had enough sleep. And if not, I'm like, all right, let me stay in bed. Let me try to get back to sleep. Let me push myself. The third, even if you're not a diabetic, I truly think it's important to follow your glucose. And if you have the availability to do it, then man, do it. And then the last, I really think it's important to the activity levels. When this thing tells me, hey, it's time to stand up, I'm like, he or she, whatever this watch is probably supposed to tell me. And it's true. So I think if you can focus on those core things and really maximize them and really follow them, I think you can do really good.
Dr. Castro, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, one of the reasons I was particularly looking forward to having you on is that you're one of my favorite kind of people when it comes to AI. I'm going to speak very broadly that as AI has captured the public consciousness, there are some people who go, "Oh my God, this is going to put me out of a job," and there are other people who go, "Oh my God, this could make everyone who does my job so much better." And I'm so interested in the takes of category two, people who are welcoming the future, not fearing it. And you're an extraordinary example. Someone who was right there at the forefront of experimentation with language models. Can they be used diagnostically? Is this something that could enhance healthcare? Um, Tell us about those experiments and what you're looking forward to next.
Yeah, I got to give you the quick story. So November 30th, 2020. I always have to think about this. ChatGPT came out in 23, right? Yeah, 23. I'm literally in this office typing away and somehow ended up on ChatGPT and started asking questions, going back and forth, and my mind immediately blew up. I remember acting like a little kid. I ran out of this office. I went to my wife. I said, "Oh my gosh, there's this thing called ChatGPT. It's going to change the world." And she's like, "What is ChatGPT?" And I said, "Well, all I know is I'm going to write a book on this and I'm going to start literally today. And my goal is to launch this book." And within 3 weeks, I had that book ready to go, submitted for ChatGPT in healthcare, and it launched right away. And the reason I like sharing that story is when I saw the potential of AI, I thought this thing is going to help us in so many ways. And so, to your point, I love this technology. I thought, gosh, if I could give this to my doctor colleagues, if I give this to my patients and work with them, the amount of healthcare that they're going to get improved from where we're at today just blew my mind.
Right, right. I mean, it seems like there's just an extraordinary shortage of talent, right? Like the amount of healthcare that is needed literally exceeds the supply of healthcare giving potential.
Yes. To that point, by the year 2030, we're going to see a global shortage of 10 million healthcare workers around the globe. What that means is we got less and less people working and more people that are aging. And so the gap is getting bigger and bigger. And so I'm really worried that we need something. And in my mind, it's AI.
That makes sense. And as you think about AI plugging that gap, are you thinking about like plugging the availability gap so someone talks to a virtual doctor instead of a doctor? Or do you think it's about enhancing the performance of the caregivers so they can, handle a bigger patient load? How does that play out in your mind?
Yeah. Due to political reasons, I think the first low hanging fruit will be to augment, to supplement, to make me a better doctor.
Mhm.
I think we will see that, and that'll be easier to legislate and create those workflows. With that said, I'm really interested to see what the rest of the world does because I really think we're going to start seeing all these little things around the world that we're like, hey, why don't we have that here in the US? But to your point, example, I'm an ER doctor, 2 in the morning. I get extremely tired. I try my best, drink coffee. I do my best to sleep as much as possible. But the truth is, I'm human. And so if it's 2 in the morning and the stakes are high, I want to have something. And to me, that something is AI to make sure it's going through my data and saying, hey, Dr. Castro, in your differential diagnosis, all the possibilities of that disease, it could be X. And then for me to look at that and say, oh yeah, you know what? I'm kind of tired. Yes, there's no excuse, but yeah, I forgot about that one. Let me go back and order this lab, or let me go check X, Y, and Z.
Wow. Now, it's obviously the case actually, like, thinking as a patient, one of the hardest value judgments I make is this serious? So I'm suffering, I have certain symptoms and I'm wondering if I should just ignore this or if I actually need to go to all the trouble to like get a doctor involved or go to the hospital, right? It's like this self pre-diagnosis. I'm running my own little differentials, but not informed by tremendous clinical practice.
God, I sigh on that one just because as a doctor, specifically as an ER doctor, I worry that if one person goes down the wrong path and the AI hallucinates and dies, that's one too many. And I understand it's a bell curve of people. You may be an amazing person in the sense that you've studied medicine and you've got it and you understand a certain amount of information. So it's a lot easier for you versus someone else that maybe has zero medical training or even reading up on it, not to put aside the medical training. And so when you get a chat GPT or let's just say any AI output and the other person gets an output, both of you guys look at it with different ways. You may discern and say, you know what? I don't know about this one. Let me really talk to a human on this one. And then another one, you're like, oh, this is minor. I don't really think it's a big deal. And you're okay with that. From a healthcare professional, I'm okay with other doctors using it because I know at the end of the day, they have a license by the state of wherever they're working and they've been vetted. And so they understand this new information, if it hallucinates or not, or if that should use that, and they can play with it better than the average person.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. I've often thought, because I'm a hacker, right? I it's easy for me. I have the mental frameworks to think of the differential diagnosis process as being a flow chart, first
Mhm.
featuring information discovery and then seeking termination of this algorithm where like it's like I'm navigating a big tree and I'm trying to get to the final leaf that tells me what's going on. So the in many respects that's how a lot of programming works. It's how a lot of
Mm.
debugging works, so like many hackers I've thought, I wonder if, software could actually enhance a tremendous amount of this process. Um, and here we are, but there's so much unexplored. What I mean is, when you think about the tools you have available to you in the ER, they're they're major capital investments, right? Your tools for diagnosis are things that had to be anticipated and installed in the hospital environment in the first place. Um, but we we're not at the end of human instrumentation. Like now I'm wearing smart devices. I've got a continuous time series of my heart rate going back now several years. It feels like a lot of that is useful, but it hasn't gone through the social process of being incorporatable into medical diagnosis. So there's there's a lot of potential there maybe, or do you think it's just noise?
Oh, no, I think there's so much information that we can tap into that we're not using. I
Mhm.
too wear a smartwatch. I'm holding back because I keep hearing rumors that Apple will have a wearable, and I'm waiting for a wearable ring because I'm thinking, you know what? When the Aura ring came out and they were in the Kickstarter phase, I went ahead and was
Right.
one of the first people to jump on it and any kind of wearable ring. So now, obviously, from the first generation to now, it's 10 times better. So I'm tempted to get it. I just know me, I'll get it. And then, like, Apple announced it'll be out here next month or something. But to your point, we have all this data points. And as a physician, the more information I get, the better informed decision I make, the better I am to my patients. And so when I look at the wearables and I see, now with Apple Intelligence and smartphones, how much information is here, I'm thinking, wow, what a gold mine when it comes to information. Because again, if you just mentioned your heart rate, if you have a heart rate of X and it changes either up or down, then I look at you as an individual and say, okay, why did that number change? But then if you're giving me more data points and say, well, my average sleep this month has gone down, my HRV went down, my heart rate went down, or rather HRV the other way, yeah, down. then I'm able to look at it globally and say, okay, wait a second, what happened? But again, to your point, you're wearing the wearables, you have the phone, you have the ring. Now I can really look at you holistically and saying, okay, outside of just doing a little blood test or x-ray or whatnot and physical exam, now I can create this. The analogy today would be blood pressure.
Mm,
Patients come in with high blood pressure, but I may be wearing my white coat and that may jack up their high blood pressure. So I say,
right.
hey, let me get that data point from home. Let's see what your wearables are saying. And let me look at that if they have that information on them. Or I'll just say, hey, track it out the next month. And then when you come back, let's look at that and see where your trend is.
Right, right, right. This has been something I've become obsessed with since the earliest days of Fulcra. It's just using the the devices in my life to understand what is normal. Like the fact is, I, like most human beings, aren't really good at noticing subtle changes over time. Um, So, because I'm adapting to my environment, which is a good thing, but because that adaptation is happening all the time, slow drifts in like my heart health, how I'm sleeping are like just really, really hard to notice. So it took a tremendous amount of effort to figure out just what is normal for me, and then to train even the simplest data science um, tools, the simplest of algorithms to surface to me what's weird about this week. What's out of band. Um, so I think there's quite a bit of potential there, but it feels, I don't know, it feels like a frontier, and it feels like a frontier that is open to dangerous levels of optimization. You can instrument yourself in a bazillion ways. You can spend an infinite amount of money. It's like spending money on security. What do you think are the key variables? So many of those who tune into the augmented life are people who've got spending power, are interested in adopting new technology that their future selves will be thankful for. What do you think are the key baseline metrics to start recording about yourself today?
Yeah. I'm really big on HRV would be one. The second would be sleep pattern. So important that we get our hours in. Uh, I've gotten to the point where I put my sleep monitor on my phone, and every time I wake up, I look to see if I had enough sleep. And if not, I'm like, all right, let me stay in bed. Let me try to get back to sleep. Let me push myself. Uh, the third, even if you're not a diabetic, I truly think it's important to follow your glucose. And I know that there's now a what is it? You don't have to write a prescription to be able to follow your glucose, which
Yeah, like
I'm
the
really
Stella.
excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so happy they did that because we should have been doing this years ago. There's no reason to write a prescription. That should have been available. If you have the availability to do it, then man, do it. And then the last, I really think it's important to the activity levels. When this thing tells me, "Hey, it's time to stand up," I'm like, "Ugh, he's he or she, whatever this watch is, probably is supposed to tell me," and it's true. So I think if you can focus on those core things and really maximize them and really follow them, I think you can do really good.
Ooh, all right. So let me drill down into specifically CGMs. If you're not diabetic, you just want to gather baseline data so that you understand yourself better. Um, wh- how often should we be doing this? I think the typical CGM lasts for, it's somewhere between 7 to 10 days of data collection. So should I be doing this once a month, once a season?
That's a hard question. I'm gonna sound like a politician and say it depends. It depends on you. If you are an athlete and you really want to fine tune and you're working for a marathon and when seconds count and you really want to make it, I would say 24/7 because you want to know when you eat, when you get stressed, how your body reacts to certain foods so you can really optimize that right sugar level. If you're pre-diabetic and you're on a mission to lose weight, then I'd say, well, it's almost the beginning. I'd almost encourage you to do it longer. That way you can get more data and then know that, hey, I've learned a lot about myself. There's certain foods I didn't realize when I went out and ate sushi with my wife because she loves it. My sugars get jacked, and I try not to eat the rice and I try to eat other things, but my sugar really takes off. As opposed to there's other sugars that I can have that they're not good for you, but doesn't do anything much to my sugar. So I'm learning that, okay, I can do a little bit of this, I could do a little bit of that. So to my point, I would say at the beginning, maybe a little longer. And then once you have the trends and once you have it, then you know to get off. But for me, it's really scary if you're pre-diabetic. And so I would say really try, if you can, use it longer to really dissect that out to get you down to the right way, to get you to the right food habits. And that way, if you can get normal, then at that point, I'm like, all right, I think you learn how to eat and what to eat and not to eat.
Right. One of the things that blew my mind in my own self-experimentation with CGMs was seeing my glucose spike in response to heat stress. So like being outside in the summer, not a high level of exertion, right? Sunbathing style of exertion. My glucose would spike. So I played around with this. I got into the shower, got into the sauna. I was like, oh my God, it's heat. This is wild. Not something I would have noticed if I had only worn the
Mhm.
CGMs in the winter.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I truly think my favorite phrase for this year, we don't know what we don't know. So the more we know, the better we know. A quick example, 30 years ago, if I grabbed a cigar, started smoking, you'd be like, okay. If I do that today, you're like, what the heck is he doing? And so with that analogy, imagine us understanding new information and knowing that we should do X and Y. Now that I understand, now I won't be smoking. So fast forward, maybe there's something that I'm doing today that I will not be doing in the future because now I know.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I've often thought that this applies in the reverse as well, where there could be essentials that we just haven't discovered yet, right? Like our understanding of essential vitamins and minerals is just not that old. So absolutely no one could have told you to get enough vitamin C before vitamin C was isolated, right? So who's to say that we're done? Like, did we discover literally all of the vitamins? How do we know? It's not like the universe has sent us a letter, like, "You're done with this, move on."
Yeah. And to your point, I know that in our periodic table, they're saying that with AI, we'll probably discover new elements that we didn't even know existed. That's elements that we thought we knew them all, but there's more coming.
Right, right. Yeah. Ah, that I love that. So, um all right, so let's skip ahead. We're assuming that um, coming discoveries start filling in some gaps, which themselves can lead to new healthy lifestyle behaviors. You've been experimenting with AI in the aiding diagnosis. What else are you excited about coming down the pike in terms of AI augmentation in your field?
I love for me personally, I love just getting more information and how easy it is to take huge amounts of data and then using AI to explain it to me. For example, if I took your genetics and I did your entire genome and I try to memorize all the genes that are out there and this came out and this, it would be impossible for me to know all of these genes from you and then figure out how to tie it. But if I could use AI to take all of that information and then tell me, hey, gene X, he actually is a candidate, then to be able to be a doctor and be like, okay, here's what we can do. I'll give you a real example. I found out that, I know my grandfather, he's still alive and he has macular degeneration, but he has the type that when I did my genetic test that I have the same. And I thought, oh my gosh, I remember seeing there's just, I think it's in clinical trials, one still, some gene therapy. And I thought, oh my gosh, if this gets FDA approved, now before when I'm, older, I can do this gene therapy and now I don't have to worry about macular degeneration, which I
Right.
thought amazing. And so to me, it's the predictive analytics, how to use this information, the more information we have, and then using predictive analytics to tell me, yeah, you're about to have macular degeneration. And therefore now I'm looking to see what's out there to prevent it.
Yes. Ooh, I'm looking forward to a future that's that multi-dimensionally informed as well. It seems like there's a lot of good research in connecting particular behaviors now to certain genes. Obviously, personal gene sequencing got a lot more accessible, but there's something missing to connect the dots. Like I I'm certain that a genetic analysis of me would be able to predict, some kinds of workouts are going to be more effective for me than others. But I can't even like get that advice, you know? There's yeah, there's a middle piece that's missing.
I agree. I love different applications. I have one on my phone, on my watch that literally gives me a gauge, kind of like a fuel gauge. Should I work out? Should I not? Should I wait? And it's all based on my HRV and my sleep patterns and whatnot. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is great because inherently I start working out. I'm like, "God, something's wrong with me." And then I'm like, wait a second. Yeah, I didn't sleep last night. I didn't fuel up the right way. I fasted too long. And so now I understand. So again, I love these wearables, and I really think the more information we have, the more we know.
Right, right, right. I noticed like here's a way that my watch brought me clarity that I was missing myself. I um I started drinking more alcohol during the pandemic lockdown, not really in the form of like a large number of drinks at once, but just an increase in regularity, right? So I was ending the work day with a cider or wine much more frequently than usual. Um, but but not in a way that seemed to ring any alarm bells for me. But once I started recording my HRV and had like reliable time series, um, I I started doing some A/B testing that's just around like alcohol consumption, and I noticed a significant difference in HRV between having, for instance, 2 glasses of wine, one and a half, 1 or a half. Like statistically significant differences at that level. It blew my mind. I I couldn't believe such a small amount of alcohol consumption had this measurable difference on my heart health.
And what would be interesting is to try different alcohols and see
I
if
know,
there's one
right?
that's better
Yeah.
than another. So that way, when you pick your poison, pick which one's better.
Yeah, for instance, a confounder across different alcohols is just, residual sugar. So right now I'm recording an entirely new baseline where I haven't had any alcohol at all, and I'm laying down a baseline of lowest resting heart rate in the night and HRV. And then yeah, I was thinking about doing like vodka, like just a small amount of vodka at like different points, um, even like different times. But that'll be my like zero residual sugar experiment,
Mhm.
and then we'll try wine. And yeah, I'm doing this all for you. I'm taking
I love it. Love it.
taking the hard shots for the data no one else will get.
No pun intended. I may have a shot with you too. No, this is fun. I can't wait to see where we're at as a humanity, and I call it we're gonna increase our healthcare IQ, and the more we increase it, the longer we will live.
Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that a lot. Mm. There's the collective interest in there's the collective increase in IQ, you know, augmenting doctors, augmenting everyone in healthcare, as well as possibly, individual empowerment. Sometimes I talk to people who find it literally easier to talk to a chatbot than to a
Mhm.
human being. So they almost like rehearse visiting the doctor before they do it.
Actually, I love that you said that. For my patients, I made a free little GPT, and all it's supposed to do is you're not supposed to put any medical data. I mean, identifier, HIPAA identifiers. But you say, I have hypertension, diabetes, and let's just say, to your analogy, I'm not sleeping, I'm drinking a little bit more. Then the whole idea is that before you come see me, it lists out all the questions. That way, we get the most of those 13 minutes. The average
Yeah,
visit in
right.
the United States is 13 minutes. So why not have all those questions ready to go? And these are my follow up. I love small talk, but let's just jump in. Hey, how can I help you? How can I educate you? And let's go. And so that's why I created that.
Oh, nice. How are patients taking you up on this? Like how's that been going?
They love it because it goes both ways. I say, hey, before you present, shoot me with all the questions. That way I know. And if I have time, you can hit me up before you even come to the visit so I can go back and forth. So that way when you come, we really to that next level of talking. Or if they don't want to do that, I say, bring your laptop. And if I say something that maybe I didn't quite explain, I'm supposed to speak at a fourth grade level. And sometimes my brain is going 100 miles per hour and I may say something. That way, the patient can say, whoa, whoa, wait, 1 second, doc. And I'll even let them transcribe our conversations. So that way, that information is there and they can go back and look at it when they're ready to talk more or just understand. Or I may have used a word and they're like, I didn't want to stop him from talking. But this way, I say, no, interrupt me. It's okay. Like, ask away or use the AI and then let's go back and forth.
Nice. Well, that's like a completely different model for how you can relate with your patients.
And I did a TED talk recently. I'm going to invite you to come see it. And basically, it's human plus AI and how can we revolutionize medicine together. And so it's pretty interesting. We go over stuff like that, and I'll just give one away. I created discharge instructions, and I put them as cartoons. And so either cartoons, comic strips, coloring book. And the skinny is I'm speaking to a 5-year-old. I take the core concepts of what I'm trying to teach them, but I put it in a coloring book,
That's
and now they
brilliant.
can totally understand. It's just another way of using AI.
Oh, that's such a good idea because you're using the generative capabilities of the model to do something that's hyper personalized that would otherwise take you far too long by hand. That's an excellent example of extending basically your care load, right? Like you're that's so cool. Ooh. Tell me more about experiments you've been conducting just on that like patient doctor relationship.
Since I'm an ER doctor, one of the core things that I always talk about is basic stuff, communication. Everybody's heard that AI does a better job than doctors, and it's because of the communication. Case in point, if I'm a doctor here in Texas and let's pretend you're in Europe and I tell you about football, you'll be thinking soccer and I'll be thinking American football. And then if my analogies won't make sense. And so why am I communicating wrong? And so I'm saying to my patients, let's use AI so I can communicate. So if you speak another language and I don't speak that language, gosh, AI has gotten to the point where, have you seen the new Meta glasses? You can put those on and it can translate in real time. I don't think they've released that feature yet, but that's close. And so that's one cool example. In the TED Talk, I show an example of if you're hard of hearing, I don't know sign language, but now I can use large language models to create the sign language. And now
Mhm.
you're able to understand your discharge instructions with the video.
Yeah. Oh, I like this. Are you seeing any now, the what really, I think the right way to ask this is like a wish list question. So, you get to spend on average 13 minutes with a patient, you send them out the door, and every time you send them out the door, I imagine you're sending them with hope that they'll do what you suggested, hope that they'll recover in the expected way. What do you wish you could see? What are the ways in which you wish you could have like that after visit visibility with patients that would really help you as a doctor?
Yeah, this to me, we need to move away from reactive medicine
Mhm.
and be proactive. So that after I seen you, I have access to your dashboard. So I can look at your sleepable, your data, your sleeping, your HRV, all that information, and let me look at it and create some parameters that if I see X or Y, I can address. I can call you, I can text you, and then I can really work with you. Case in point, we have some patients with congestive heart failure, and just think of it as their heart just becomes really enlarged. And if they drink too much water or salt, it gets to the point where it stops pumping well. Well, we trace that with wearables. We're able to trace their weight and their diet. And if I know ahead of time that that's basically what's going on and you're gaining water weight because your scale is saying this is all water weight, then we can have an understanding that I give you a prescription with the pharmacy and that when you get to X weight, you already know to double your meds or XYZ. That's a good example of how I can be proactive because if I don't do anything, guess what? You'll be in the hospital and you may be there a long time. And so now I'm able to be proactive.
That's extremely inspiring. Like, I guarantee you we're gonna work on that at Fulcra. I love that vision, and I do feel like there's got to be a way that we can use the increasing ubiquitousness of these kind of consumer devices to to shine that aftercare light and keep the relationship going and empower proactivity over disease-based reactivity.
Exactly.
I think sometimes even just knowing that feeling seen almost by itself reinforces positive behavior. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like if I know that you have the ability to look after me, I'm probably gonna be on slightly better behavior.
And what comes to mind is the patients tell me, "Don't look at the scale." And I'm like, "Well, but I know what the weight will be. It's gonna be on a chart in a couple of minutes." "Oh, yeah, yeah, but I don't want you looking at me when I'm getting weighed in." I was like, "Okay,
I see.
I won't look." It's interesting 'cause it's to your point, we're observing. The other thing you said that was quite interesting, among many things, is that whole conversation where bots can go back and forth and a patient rather be with a bot than a human, and I don't take offense to that. I see it 2 ways. One, maybe the bot's explaining it a little bit better. Second, there's some things that we don't want that doctor eyes to be able to say, "Oh my gosh, you said that." Even though I'll look at the transcript and go through it, but it's just that intimacy level. It's interesting. And so big picture, I respect it. If anything, whatever it takes to get you the best outcome, I wanna do.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I think there's something counterintuitively empowering about there being a delete button. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You can have a chat and then you can erase it afterwards. Very hard to do that with a person.
Yeah. And I do wanna add another thing that I'm led to say.
Mm.
If you have the wearables and you're getting that information, you wanna make sure that that healthcare provider is on the same wavelength so that you can have that culture and so you have that doctor that really that understands HRV, that can take it and say, "Okay, you know what? Yes, this is important." I'm not discounting other doctors in any way. I'm just saying if you see a certain future and you're trying X and Y, you may wanna have a doctor that compliments you, that shares that vision, that culture, that's thinking react proactive and saying, "You know what? Yes, I saw this study. You know what? Yes, I haven't heard of this, but let's learn together and let's see how I can give you the best health."
Right, right, right. I wonder if I mean, my understanding is things can go the wrong way and people classically are misinformed by, you know, Googling about their symptoms before visiting the doctor, right? I have a headache, therefore it must be a brain tumor.
Yeah.
Um, but the internet is full of clickbait because it's ad funded. The so you optimize for getting clicks, presumably telling that you have a tumor is a little more clickbaity than suggesting that you need an aspirin. So it's possible that almost misempowerment um, is allayed by AI, which doesn't quite have those incentives.
Yeah, I hesitate and take a deep breath on that one because I worry that AI speaks so well, sounds so convincing that when you look at a Google ad, you're like, "Oh, this was clickbait. Oh, there was sponsored. Oh, this was the second paragraph tells me I need to go to this company." I'm like, "Eh." Whereas ChatGPT is very focused on you, and the more you speak to it, the more it really molds the words towards you.
Right.
And so I'm worried from a hallucination point of view that if it gives you the wrong information, that you'll believe it.
Right. Right. It is more believable in its bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll just throw in a little ethical question in the future. The IQ of this thing is getting better and better. And in the near future, it'll get to a point where no human on earth will know if that is hallucinating or not, because it'll be at such a level that the handful of people that exist that have that kind of IQ don't have a high enough IQ to understand that level.
Right. Right. Right.
So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
Plus, it takes energy. Like debunking takes work, right? So so the AI can sort of exhaust all of the energy of the debunkers and
Mhm.
still has GPU cycles to spare. So it's not even a question necessarily of relative intelligence. It can also just be a question of relative energy.
Yeah. Well said. Love it.
Are there any near term innovations that you're looking forward to um, that that we should put on our radar for being more proactive about our own health? The like what's in the middle? I'm looking forward, frankly, to home CRISPR Yes, please. I want to do some gene editing, but between now and then, there's probably some good like incremental innovations that are going to be a little bit easier to adopt. Um, I'll tell you right now that I have my fingers crossed for um, a wearable CGM. I'd love I, I'd love to get rid of the little pokey bit. What are you looking forward to?
Actually, I'm on the same page. I want a wearable that tells me my sugar because that'd be great. Because then, I mean, not that the wearable hurts, it's just a little thing, but it'd be nice to just have something that you can wear. It just makes
I
sense.
know, right? Nothing to throw away.
Yeah, to me, I'm really stoked about, edge technology. Specifically, I don't have my glasses. I have these fun glasses that I put on, but imagine glasses that have AI paired, and in real time, if I have whatever I'm eating, it knows, and I don't have to take a picture, and it just can start accumulating data. And now I don't have to be
Yes.
like, what is it, MyFitnessPal? I have no shares in them or anything like that, where it knows. And so throughout the day, it's almost like recording everything. And I know some of people are like, whoa, that's too TMI. But no, I think that'd be great because now I have another data source of what my food is. And then let's take it to the next level. What if it's seeing what I'm eating, and then by the time dinner, be like, okay, Harvey, you have way too many carbs today. We need you up your protein. I suggest the following meals. And then I'm looking at my menu and it's saying, okay, of the menu, this one, you need to order this one. How nice.
I would love that decision
And
support.
we're not far from there. We're really not. It's just a matter of putting it together. I'm in my mind as a doctor, I'm combining AI and doctor, and how can I create some fun stuff to put it all
Right.
together?
Nice. I'm looking forward to the longitudinal studies made possible by exactly that kind of breakthrough. So imagine that I start recording everything that I eat. Other people do as well. Many people like me are also sampling the microbiome of their gut.
Hmm.
I want to know, how does my microbiome compare to someone else who eats substantially the same, right? Like imagine that we're different even while our diets are identical. That would suggest environmental causes or genetic causes. It'd be so nice to be able to, either rule out diet or show that diet makes all the difference.
Yeah.
There's so many health outcomes that seem to be affected by diet, but
Oh yeah.
accurately capturing the data of exactly what I'm putting in my body is just too onerous. So we can never do it at scale.
Yeah. Now you got I have to say this because you brought it up. Have you seen the study that talks about like what you said, the different microorganisms, and then someone that is skinny, someone that may be obese, and what they are noticing it's different, and then they're able to transplant from the skinny person to the obese, and just that fecal transplant will show a decrease in their weight.
Isn't that mind blowing? Yes.
Yes, very interesting.
Yeah. And the fact that fecal transfer works as a mechanism to achieve this is just mind blowing and like, a little off putting.
Yeah, we talked about it. It's like let's throw it out there. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think we all now know that antibiotics have been overprescribed. So I've now seen some biohackers that are freezing their own stool samples in order to populate their microbiome after they have to do a course of antibiotics for whatever reason.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense from science point of view. Smart, actually.
Right? It works substantially faster than just trying to like reintroduce fermented foods.
Yeah, smart, smart, smart. It'll be interesting what our grandkids will be doing, and as far as all the stuff we're talking about today, they'll probably laugh at this episode in the future.
That's right. Well, all right. If you're listening from the future, uh, our obsession is this: the science starts literally with measurement. So we need to make more breakthroughs, I think, in accurate counting, accurate measurement, in order to have the inputs to the scientific process for achieving whatever wonderful breakthroughs you're already enjoying from 2125.
There we go. Love it.
Well, it was a pleasure having you on the show today. We've covered a lot of ground. If if listeners want to follow up, how do they find you online?
Yeah. Literally, I made everything the same. It's Harvey Castro, MD, as in medical doctor. It's just Harvey Castro, MD. And then the other one is just Harvey. You'll find me on all the social media with that. And then the second, if you go to my website, I have to share this real quick. It's harveycastromd.com. I took all the books I've written. I have about 18 books. I have any interview, any podcast, anytime I've been on TV, Fox News, I put it all together and I created my own RAG model. And now you can go to my website and have a conversation. What does Harvey think about AI? What does Harvey think about XYZ? And if I've written about it, you'll get a response. And then I've been toying with 11 labs, and on my website, on the homepage, you can click talk to me, and then it's my voice cloned, and we can have a small conversation back and forth. And then for my Hispanic patients, I did it on another part of the website where I'm speaking in Spanish. So I figure it'd be kind of fun.
That is absolutely fantastic. I hope you inspire some of our listeners to make their own rag-based clones. That's an absolutely marvelous idea. I love it. All right. I'll be sending some of my podcast follow-up questions to your
There we go.
self-hosted rag model.
Sounds awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Castro.